the Bible.
In the beginning.
But Abraham.
Moses looked back at those who followed him.
In the days when the judges judged.
And David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine."
Hello, friends. Welcome to Bible Broadcasts, vintage stories and hymns from the golden age of radio. I'm John Henderson. Join me as we travel through the Bible from beginning to end, as heard over the airwaves of the 20th century. Today's Bible stories are King Saul from 1 Samuel 8 to 15, and David and Goliath from 1 Samuel 16 to 20, which comes from an old-time radio broadcast on October 10th, 1945. Now, these are excellent radio dramas that follow the Bible stories pretty closely. The language is a bit old-fashioned, either because it was recorded in the mid-20th century, or because it's quoting the King James Version from the 17th century. But it's not at all too hard to follow. But before we get to our story, open your hymnal to number 801, "The Lord is My Shepherd," from a November 1950 broadcast.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me down to lie in pastures green. He leadeth me the quiet waters by. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. I found it so, I found it so. He leadeth me by day and by night, where living waters flow. Yea, though I should walk the valley of death, yet why should I fear from ill? For thou art with me, and thy rod and staff me comfort still. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. I found it so, I found it so. He leadeth me by day and by night, where living waters flow.
And now today's story.
When the people of Israel demanded that God give them a king, as other nations had, they were given Saul, and certainly he was kingly. He had led the armies to victory over their enemies. He was tall, handsome, and godly. He took as a trusted advisor the prophet Samuel, and a strong kingdom destined for greatness was soon established.
Listen to Samuel, the man of God. Hear ye, people of Israel. Ye will fear the Lord and serve him. Then shall both ye and the king that reigneth over you continue following the Lord your God. But if ye will not obey the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then shall the hand of the Lord be against you.
As Saul reigned, he became proud. With each victory, he became more sure of his own greatness, more arrogant. He took to himself powers reserved for the priests, and his trouble began.
The people are afraid, O king, and hide in caves and in pits. They seek high places to climb to and rocks to hide them in. The Philistines appear as many as sands of the sea, and no one goes to fight them.
I will defeat them. Samuel promised me to return in 7 days to make the burnt offering, but he does not return. We wait only for him. Then we will do battle. What means that crying?
It is but the people weeping for fear. Many are scattering because they say they have no protection.
Bring the burnt offering to me. I will offer it.
But only the priest can offer the sacrifice.
It must be done. Samuel is not here. Bring me the burnt offering and the peace offering. Saul himself will make the sacrifice and pray God's blessing on the people of Israel.
May God bless our nation. The offering
is done.
Master, Samuel approaches.
But, at last, let us go out to meet him.
Saul, what hast thou done?
The Philistines have gathered together and prepared to fight us. The people are scattering because of fear. I could not go to battle without sacrificing to the Lord. You did not return, Samuel, when you said you would.
Saul, thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast done the sacrifice.
It had to be done.
No, I would have come. See, I am here already.
I did not know. We could not wait.
Oh, thou hast sinned and not kept the commandment of the Lord. The warriors prepare to battle, O king.
And I will lead them. Surely God's hand will still be with Israel.
Battle's won! Sound the trumpet! Saul has won the
See, we have won the victory. Surely God is still with us.
I anointed thee king of Israel for the Lord. Therefore, Saul, listen now to the words of the Lord.
As God will, so be it.
Because Amalek laid wait for Israel in the way and smote the people on their way from Egypt. Now go thou and smite Amalek. Utterly destroy all they have. Spare nothing. Slay man and woman, infants, ox and sheep, camel and ass. Let nothing remain alive.
It shall be done. Call the young men and tell them to prepare for battle. Hail, Samuel. Blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord.
What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in mine ears, and the lowing of oxen?
We have brought them from the Amalekites to sacrifice to the Lord for his goodness. All but the best we destroyed.
Did not the Lord command that all things be destroyed?
Yea, and I obeyed the command of the Lord, utterly destroying the Amalekites, saving only the king whom I brought back. But the people...
The people?
Yea, the people took of the spoil, only the best of the things which should have been destroyed, to sacrifice them to God.
Oh, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king.
I have sinned and disobeyed the Lord, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now, pardon my sin, and turn again with me that I may worship the Lord.
No, I must go.
Wait, Samuel, do not
lay
go.
not hold on me. As thou hast rent my garment, so has the Lord rent the kingdom from thee this day, and given it to another.
Now the Spirit of the Lord had departed from Saul, and an evil spirit troubled him. And Saul's servants said unto him,
Behold now, an evil spirit troubleth thee. Let our Lord now command thy servants which are before thee to seek out a man who is a cunning player on the harp. And it shall come to pass, when the evil spirit is upon thee, that he shall play, and thou shalt be well.
Provide me now a man that can play well, and bring him to me.
Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse the Bethlehemite, that is cunning in playing, and prudent in speech, and a comely person, and the Lord is with him.
Then Saul sent messengers unto Jesse. And Jesse took an ass laden with bread, and a bottle of wine, and a kid, and sent them by David his son unto Saul. And David came to Saul and stood before him. And Saul loved him greatly, and David became his armor-bearer. And it came to pass, when the evil spirit was upon Saul, that David took the harp and played with his hand, so Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies in battle, and they were gathered together at Shochoh, which belonged to Judah. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched in the vale of Elah. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. And he had an helmet of brass upon his head, and he was clad with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel,
Why are you come to set your battle in array? Choose your man of you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and kill me, then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants. I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man, that we may fight together.
And when Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. But David said to Saul,
Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine.
Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him. Thou art but a youth, and he is a man of war from his youth.
Thy servant kept his father's sheep. And when there came a lion or a bear and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after him and smote him and delivered him out of its mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. The Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine.
Go then, and the Lord be with thee.
And Saul clad David in his own apparel, and put an helmet of brass upon his head, and clad him with a coat of mail. But David said,
I cannot go with these. I am not used to them.
And David put them off. And he took his staff in his hand, and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, and his sling was in his hand. And he drew near to the Philistine. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and withal of a fair countenance.
Am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field.
Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and all this assembly may know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear.
And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it. And he smote the Philistine in his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. And when the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. Now from that day and forward, Saul was afraid of David, because the Lord was with him, and was departed from Saul. Therefore Saul removed him from him, and made him his captain over 1,000. And he went out and came in before the people. And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him. And when Saul saw that he behaved himself very wisely, he stood in awe of him. But all Israel and Judah loved David. And Saul said,
What can he have more? What the kingdom.
And Saul was yet the more afraid of David. And Saul spoke to Jonathan, his son, and to all his servants that they should kill David. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David. And Jonathan told David,
Saul, my father, seeketh to kill thee. Now therefore I pray thee, take heed of thyself, and abide in a secret place, and hide thyself. And I will talk with my father of thee, and if I see aught, I will tell thee.
And Jonathan spake good of David unto Saul his father.
Let not the king sin against his servant, against David, because he hath not sinned against thee, and because his works have been to thee very good, for he put his life in his hands. Wherefore then wilt thou sin against innocent blood, and slay David without a cause?
As the Lord liveth, he shall not be put to death.
And Jonathan called David and brought David to Saul, and he was in his presence as beforetime. And David played on the harp day by day. But it came to pass that an evil spirit came mightily upon Saul. As he sat in his house with his spear in his hand and David played, Saul thought,
I will smite David even to the wall. I will smite him!
And Saul cast the spear, but David slipped away. And the spear smote the wall, and David fled. And David came and said to Jonathan,
What have I done? What is mine iniquity, and what is my sin before thy father, that he seeketh my life?
God forbid. Thou shalt not die.
Thy father knoweth well that I have found grace in thine eyes. But truly, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, there is but a step between me and death.
Whatsoever thy soul desireth, I will do it for thee.
And it came to pass that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him and gave it to David, and his apparel, even to his sword and his bow.
Fear not. The hand of Saul my father shall not find thee. Thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee. And that also Saul my father knoweth.
A young blood. David was attending the sheep for his pa. Somebody hollered at him. That was his ma. Run down to camp with this little bit of snack. Give it to your brothers and hurry. Right back. David took his lunchbox and off he hurried. There I saw the Israelites looking right worried. Ask him what's the matter. They pointed to the prairie. There he saw a sight to make an elephant scary. Come on, said the giant, raging and a-striding. Drag out your champions from the holes where they're hiding.
giant looks at David and he lets out a laugh. Acts like a tiger being sassed by a calf. Laughs like a hyena. Grins from year to year. Rattles on his armor with a 10-foot spear. David takes his slingshot, swings it round his head, lets fly a pebble, and the giant drops dead.
Thank you for listening to Bible Broadcasts. Enjoy this week's closing hymns.
Encamped along the hills of light, ye Christian soldiers, rise, and press the battle ere the night shall veil the glowing skies. Against the foe in vales below, let all our strength be hurled. Faith is the victory we know that overcomes the world. Faith is the victory. Faith is the victory. Oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. To him that overcomes the foe, white raiment shall be given. Before the angels he shall know his name confessed in heaven. Then onward from the hills of light our hearts with love aflame. We'll vanquish all the hosts of night in Jesus' conquering name. Faith is the victory, faith is the victory, oh, glorious victory that overcomes the world. Conquering now and still to conquer, rideth the King in his might, leading the hosts of all the faithful into the midst of the fight. See them with courage advancing, clad in their brilliant array, shouting the name of their leader. Hear them exultingly say, not to the strong is the battle, not to the swift is the race, yet to the true and the faithful victory is promised through grace. Conquering now and still to conquer, who is this wonderful King? Whence are the armies which he leadeth, while of his glory they sing? He is our Lord and Redeemer, Savior and Monarch divine. They are the stars that forever bright in his kingdom will shine. Not to the strong is the battle, not to the swift is the race, yet to the true and the faithful victory is promised through grace.
Next week on Bible Broadcasts.
And David abode in the wilderness and the strongholds in the hill country of Ziph. And Saul sought him. And Jonathan, Saul's son, arose and went to David and strengthened his hand in God.
Fear not. The hand of Saul my father shall not find thee. And thou shalt be king over Israel, and I shall be next unto thee.
This episode is the beginning of a series of episodes on King David, so this might be a good one to share with a friend, or just tell somebody about the podcast Bible Broadcasts. Thanks.
God be with you. Till we